Yeah. All right. Here we are, man. It's calmed down a lot since this weekend.
Calm down. Yeah. Do you still have any more fireworks going off? We haven't heard a loud boom since Saturday.
No,
Since Monday.
I just realized, like as holidays approach, I feel like a low level anxiety all the time.
I was just thinking the same thing. Yeah.
You kind of part of you is like, well, everybody's gonna be doing it. I got to do it, and then you're like, damn, I don't want to do it, and then you kind of do it, and you don't do it, and then it happens, and then the next thing you know, it's like crickets. It's over. Nobody's here. I was out yesterday. It was a Monday. I was like, damn, it's almost eerily quiet. You kind of
is it really? Yeah.
You're happy about it, but you're kind of like, okay, well, I survived that, I guess. I don't know. It's all those big event things are just.
Oh, I think it's like that. Even if you're not on the lake, I mean, you're on the lake, obviously, so that's like a whole different kind of animal when you talk about the influx. But still, even here, like July 4th is like a Friday. Yeah, it's like Friday. So we did some things on Saturday morning. I got up and went and did a workout, and I got up, and it's like you never like drive to town and you're thinking like, did I not get a memo? There was nobody on the road. I mean, it was dead. And you're thinking like, did I miss like a warning? Did something happen? Just like one of those like super crap. But it did. Someone told me that July 4th is like the most extroverting holiday that there is. You got cookouts, you got fireworks, you're hanging out outside, and then I can get the low level angst. That's why I think a Friday holiday like July 4th is. I mean, honestly, all holidays that create any kind of like anxiety or like high stress environment should be on a Friday.
Oh, I agree.
Period.
Because then it's
100%. I mean, honestly, like, can we just do away with the days of it, the exact day of it in the month, and just say, hey, listen, every third Friday in November is going to be Thanksgiving. Every third or fourth, Friday and Christmas and December is going to be Christmas, the day before Christmas. Because that gives you that buffer, that Saturday, Sunday buffer. I mean, honestly, why not just move 70.3s and fulls to a Friday? You're taking Wednesday, Thursday off anyway. You go on Wednesday, you get in the hotel, you check in, you got Thursday, you get a pre-race, Friday, boom, race day. Yeah, you got to close down some extra roads, but you're probably going to get a lot more spectators because people are already out doing stuff in like the hustle and bustle of the city. And you do the race on Friday, Saturday, hang out in the city, do some things, hang out for awards. Sunday, drive back home. Monday, back ready to rock for business. And it sounds like just a much more efficient way to. I mean, listen, most people aren't working on Fridays anymore anyway. So why not just put these big events on Friday? Give us the Saturday, Sunday, the weekend. Give us our relaxed days back to rejuvenate. And I think the world will be a better place.
Yeah, man, I'm all in on that. I
think we just solved a huge problem.
It was like, yeah, that's a great idea. Because then there was nothing more spectacular to me than kind of hanging out and doing that whole stuff on Friday night, and then Saturday just kind of not having to be engaged.
Right, exactly, right?
Yeah, and then you kind of like, I had a touch of FOMO on, because I think our whole world is based on FOMO. It's sort of like, everybody's over there, they're doing it. And it's like, you go over there and you're like, this ain't very, you know what I mean? It's like you sit over here, it looks like a good idea, and then you go over there and it's like, oh, this ain't that great. So you fight that if you don't go, but then you feel better on Sunday. Like you're just like, yeah.
Oh, dude. I mean, it's 100% the case. I mean, like I feel that too, and we'll talk about triathlon in a minute, but I feel that too, even a bigger level now that, I've been sober for such a long time. I'm like, you know what? I mean, listen, I don't ever miss the drinking part, like to that extent. Yeah. Do I wish I could have like the occasional, beer margarita and like not, turn into an absolute ass clown? Absolutely. But I know that's not the case. But man, is it nice to wake up on like a Saturday morning and Sunday morning and go out for a run or do something and know that like you see people like struggling and sweating, like, yeah, I had a little too much. I'm like, yeah, I don't miss that. It's just like, it's the same thing as like you got road trips. Come back from your road trip or your vacation on like a Friday. Give yourself the weekend. There's nothing worse than coming home like on a late Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening from a road trip or vacation. Because the turnaround to the Monday morning, it hits you hard. I mean, it 100% hits you hard.
Big time. Yeah.
Anyway, back to well, I mean, kind of triathlon, but tennis. But one of the things we want to talk about today is it's a pretty busy sports time again with all things like, we got triathlon, you got races weekend, you got Muncie, you got Muscle Man, a couple other races, but You also got the Tour de France going on. I'm watching a lot of Wimbledon. And I was watching tennis before we went live, and like the number one player in the world right now, she hasn't won a single Grand Slam all year. And outside of the Grand Slams, and even the Grand Slam, she lost in the finals twice. I was listening to the commentators and would tend to agree, like she's gotten into this phase where she's like, when she gets to the semis, and which the match they're playing right now, which I think she's behind a little bit in the third set, was she like forces things. Like it's pretty visible to see like her make errors that you would never see her make really ever in any other match. But and that you could say, oh, well, that's pressure of the tournament. It's pressure, right? You know, the more you have at stake, like in the quarters, semis, and the finals, and the championship, you know, the more pressure you feel because, you know, you're actually there, right? The stakes are bigger. You're going to be more tense because you're that close, right? Same thing as like race day. Like everybody's excited and feeling themselves and super confident 20 weeks out, 12 weeks out, 8 weeks out from their 70.3 and they're full. Right, everybody's feeling themselves because they're not that close. Their expectations are high. They feel like they're still on track. And then the closer and closer and closer they get to like race day, they start to get a little bit nervous. They start to feel a lot less ready. I mean, you and I see it all the time. Like, because this is like peak build, like race prep period for a lot of people, whether it's 70.3s or fulls. People are like actually entering what I call like the reality phase of training. Because again, like the most, you know, psyched and amped most people get for a race is the day they sign up. The farthest day from the event for most people is like when they actually sign up. Then I would argue it's like the day they pull into town and like, you know, they're for the race day. But in comes like all the closer you get, the more self-doubt creeps in. The more you think, oh, are you sure I don't need to run 26 miles in training? You're like, I'm pretty sure. You know, do I need to skip all my swim workouts and just open water because I'm afraid I might? No, you don't. Like we just get this panic as we get closer. We start to force things to make, you know, decisions in judgment calls that we would never make, like with the clear head. And that leads to so many, as you kind of like titled before we went live, is like unforced errors. And right now, I think it's even more, I wouldn't say, I guess maybe it is pivotal in athletes like trainings to not make these unforced errors, to not force yourself to feel a certain way and to not force yourself to hit a certain metric you're not feeling at that day, especially again, you know, depending on what kind of environment you've got, depending on what kind of stress you have, you know, leading up to the actual workout you're doing, what you're going to do the next day. It should be basically what got me here, like, right? Like, because it is like the fitter you get, and that's natural, right? The fitter you get, the more expectations you get because you start to see glimpses of numbers in training, right? You see glimpses, and then you also have like these huge build blocks where, you know, before your recovery or like kind of down week or unload, your fatigue is masking your fitness. So you're not putting up the numbers that you know you can because you're putting up so much volume, right? Which is just the nature of long course racing. So you tend to make, you know, you start to burn these matches. You know, one of our probably like first like 50 podcasts was titled like, you know, talking about burning your matches, how you only have so many to burn. And this is why this time of year is so crucial to not make these unforced errors, because most people are already in a higher stressed or strained state, right? They're busy in the summer. They're maybe not on their same schedule. Their workload is higher. Their training load is higher. The conditions in which you're doing the training load, you know, might be more stressful, and the volume and intensity is sometimes higher. And so when you take all that extra stress, right, they're trying to accumulate and you're trying to get your body adapted to be ready to handle the stress on race day, an unforced error could tip the scale one way or the other. Right. In terms of not making an error could keep you on the right track, or making an error, right? Going out, you're like, I need this day. I need to see this number. And you go out and you do this. You go so hard on a run that you just bake yourself and you cook yourself for God knows how long. Or you're like, you know what? I'm not feeling it today. I just need to focus. I need to do my thing. And I'm just going to stay the course. These might not be the numbers that I want to see right now, but they'll come. I know they're there. I know, you know, certain things are impacting it, whether it's dew point, humidity, whatever it is. Like, you know, I know that's going to happen, you know, so the most important thing for me to do is to not force it, but just embrace it. And remember that it only matters on race day. That's it. It only matters what I can do and what I'm capable of doing, what I'm willing to do on race day. and there was a lot to be said, kind of leading up to Challenge Roth this last weekend. Sam Laidlow, I guess infamously, not famously, but kind of infamously, had an 8-minute lead out of Kona last year, was just absolutely demolishing the bike, and then just, completely imploded. Completely imploded. And ended up walking, really honestly has him in the same sense. I remember watching a few of his like docuseries and like a couple of his, YouTube videos talking about just like feeling unwell, not being able to hit numbers, just kind of had like, there was no explanation. But what I believe, and I think what a lot of people think is like he just cooked himself so much on that bike ride in that heat and overcooked it that his body went into like a state of shock, really, of like, I don't want to go there anymore. Right. There is, I read some other things about, like Johnny Brownlee, when he was carried across the line by Alistair, like in Cozumel, when they did ITU, this is like a decade ago, he was never able to race in the heat. Sarah True, same thing. Like she passed out on the course in Frankfurt, I think, because, with the lead. Then she got so hot, she was never able to come back. She's never been the same since. Like we do these things to our body. And at some point, again, like we tell our bodies to do most things, but then our body tells us when we stop. It tells, okay, it's time to shut down. And, I was listening to a lot of his kind of interviews this last week, and he basically said like, listen, I just had to not, basically like he averaged, I think 11 to 12 hours of training leading into Roth and won. So I would say like that's a third of what a lot of the high-end pros do at volume-wise, and definitely less than around half of what others do. And he still won. And the biggest win I guess the biggest win, not just for him, obviously we're taking the win in Challenge Roth, but the biggest win in like understanding and being able to see a professional, right, whose livelihood depends on racing and being able to replicate championship performances, is that he didn't force it. Easily could have had multiple setbacks by going all in way too hard because he had to do it. He's got to do these races. He's got to, validate for his, for Ironman World Championships in Nice this year. So he's got to get it done. I got to do 25, 30 hours a week. I got to keep up with everybody else. I got to do what I did last year, but he didn't. Like he kept doing a little bit and doing a little bit. And from what I heard, like like the week before the race, he wasn't even sure he was going to be able to toe the line, because of just how rough it had been. And I think it's a great testimony, I think, to the age group athlete that thinks that we're invincible and have to always do so much more and try so much harder than everybody else because we have so much less training. But again, if you can't absorb it, it's irrelevant, right? Stress and training, like when you put it on yourself, if you can't recover from it, it's no good. And that's most of what age group per se is like. It's about quality over quantity. I'm like, well, if your stress level's so high and you're making all these unforced errors in training, you're trying to crush every single workout, you're not going to recover from it, and you're going to end up losing the match, and you're going to end up losing the race day.
Yeah. So much of that to me, like, always kind of boils back down to confidence in yourself, even if it's a false confidence on some level, but just sort of faking your way through it. We've all seen it. Certainly you and I have the athlete that's kind of behind the eight ball a little bit, and then everything seems to be going all right. It's like, all right, let's just get there as fresh as we can and sharp as we can and whatever, and then out of nowhere they blast like a 6-hour ride the week before an Ironman or something like that, and you're like, why didn't you just save that till the race? It's like this kind of like, yeah, it's always, and I get it, you talk about Laidlow and the pros, and that, I always think that's just interesting. It's kind of all relative on some level, but it's kind of hard to grasp sometimes because, they're just going at such a different, level. But like when you relate it to people just, trying to finish Ironman at a decent pace or something like that, like kind of like I do, sort of just being the best you can out there. And it's a lot of times it translates into, that idea that we've talked about many times is like, don't believe how you feel out there, because it's going to change. And I had a conversation with the athlete the other day, and it kind of dawned on me that, racing Ironman or long distance stuff is kind of like meditation, really. It's sort of like, you just sit in your pocket, and then you're just in the, like somebody asked me the other day what I think about when I'm swimming that far. And I said, well, honestly, I'm just thinking about my breath in the next stroke. And I'm just trying to, keep my stroke consistent, keep my, I don't overthink anything. And a lot of times I'm just looking at the next buoy, I'm just trying to keep it in like a little pocket as much as I can. But sometimes you start drifting, right? You're thinking about, work, whatever, things start coming in, and that's the same as meditation to me. It's like you just kind of acknowledge that and let it go and bring it back into where you need to be, because I think honestly, it really is, it's like, I think of the whole race as just one big day of meditation in a sense where if you start getting out of yourself, that's when the unforced errors happen. It's just a patience game. It's sort of a breath game. It's sort of like just staying in what you're doing and let it happen. And the next thing you know, it's over, right? It's like you start that swim and it's like, damn, this is going to be a hell of a long day. And then you're just kind of struggling. And then you're at the finish line like, wow, that was a weird day. But I think a lot of times when it feels like it just sort of happened really quickly, it's like you were in your breath and you were in the moment and not struggling and pitching and moaning about how far you had to go. You're just clicking off little segments of the race, and I think to me that's one of the best weapons that you can have is just sort of break it up all the time and just be like next stage, next post, next whatever, next aid station, that kind of mentality. And I think when we start thinking about overall pace and trying to do things that are out of our control, that's when you make those errors like you're talking about. And I don't know, man. It's having those high expectations. I think sometimes it can distort us. I mean, like we've all been on run, like, you talk about running watch lists or whatever, and, think about what that is. It's sort of like you're just kind of running the best you can or whatever, swimming the best you can, whatever. And you're not thinking about that pace because somehow, I just think that sometimes when you see a different number than you're expecting, good or bad, it can kind of throw you off your game. And then you're talking about unforced errors again. You're starting to be like, all right, well, man, I'm faster than I thought I was. And then you try and run, and the next thing you know, 2 miles down the road, you're walking or whatever. So it really is just kind of about staying in your game plan and not, overreacting to any situation, like you said, so don't believe how you feel because that's going to change every 15 minutes, even if it's good or bad. So you have to kind of not overreact. And I think that's what unforced errors are a lot of times is sort of like panic moves, and I've done that many times and I totally get it, but it's just sort of that tortoise hare thing. If you just kind of keep going and keep grinding it out and the overall body of work is going to be great or fine or better than if you try to adjust too many times within the race.
I mean, what you said there is exactly what I felt this morning on a run. I'll kind of go through that here in a minute, but you see this often, like the athletes that force things, the most, like in their last, 6, 8, 10 weeks leading up to race day, because they have these, try calculations in their head, these expectations. Remember, they feel like they have to hit, whether it's a distance in the pool or watts on the bike or, mileage on the run, or it's, like I have to hit this because I see other people doing these, long, insane, workouts on Saturday, Sunday, or, this is what I have to hit in training so I can have to hit it on the race day. That's how most of those people operate on a weekly basis year round. Like I've rarely ever seen an athlete who's like objective and just kind of lets the workout come to them. Because again, like if you don't go into a workout with an expectation, then you don't have anything to force. You don't have a direction to force the pace to, or the watts to, or the distance to. You just let it be what it will be. And like at the end, like there's, again, like I know we talk about it a lot, but the more I think, pro athletes talk about numbers, the more, like I see it, not on a physiological level in terms of like training and, like unforced errors, but like I did it, myself, even though I know, not the majority, but, a significant portion of the, triathlon culture now is about, mainlining and sugaring carbs as much as you can down your throat for like the entirety of your bike rides and runs, and like, loading up super big. Like I did that. I forced that to try and get myself, because like, oh, that makes the most, maybe that's the ticket. Like maybe that's the key. And I did it. Remember last year trying to prep for Texas, and this was like what, 15, 16 months ago. And every ride I had was horrible. I mean, every one I had was horrible. I was trying to force something that just wasn't there. Now, was I trying to force it too much? Who knows? Like, is that, the best way to do things? I don't know. I know it's not for me, because since I've gone not the opposite direction, but I've just had a lot more of a measured approach to like my runs and my rides. Like, I feel so much better, because that's, again, like, I think we all have like this just baseline, not version of who we are with training, but like what we know and what what works. And I will admit, it gets boring, because like there is just, I mean, yes, you can change things up here and there that kind of like generally, might see like a short-term boost. Like I see this all the time, like tracking like professional athletes, and then when they make these like abrupt coaching changes, like they'll have a really, really awesome and consistent like 2, 3, 4 years, and then full of great, of great results. And then they might have like 1 or 2 bad races. And all of a sudden, they're like, I need to switch to, another coach. And then the next race they do, because they get a completely different stimulus from that coach, they have like this incredible result. And all the accolades goes to like the new coach, but it's not, it's both, right? The one that led them up there. And then a lot of times what you see things go back down to not worse, but a lot of times like, not nearly as good as it was before. You see it all the time. And I think this is human nature, right? We want to force things, because sometimes we get bored with what we know works, even if we know, right, that it works. And I mean, it could be as simple as like, I do this sometimes, like head into work some days. It's like a 2.5 mile drive. And I get the same route every time is the most efficient, but sometimes, what, fuck it, I'm just gonna go this different way. It might take me like 4 extra minutes, but sometimes you just need to change. And I think we do that with training. We do that with nutrition. We do that with equipment. We do that with, volume and intensity, or what looks good or what doesn't. We just force things, or what I want to see. But if you don't have that mentality, again, you're going to have it at some point during your training phase, I think. But as long as you don't have it on a daily basis, you're going to see progress. And like we did, we've had a lot of our recent podcasts, have been about, embracing the elements outside, and like, because it should, right, remove expectations. It should remove, these wanting to force seeing something, because it's just out of reach. And that's okay, because you're still doing the work, right? So it should make honestly, like, it should be the best time of year to do your easy runs outside, because you're like, I'm just running chill, and I'm getting all these like sweet free adaptations, and I'm gonna hit like the, get the fall EPO, when it comes in, I'm be ready to rock. And like today was like the first day that I've started to feel it, but I didn't go out trying to set the world on fire. So like, just for an example, it's hot everywhere. It's humid everywhere. We all get it. It doesn't need to be talked about. But I think 2 weeks ago, I've been doing like, 4, 5, 6 runs a week. And I've been trying to keep most of them like at like really, really low aerobic, even if I have to stop and walk, and like keep my heart rate in check, just to make sure it doesn't go over, a certain heart rate. Pace is relevant. And then, so like, I think 2 weeks ago, I did a 45-minute run. And I averaged 11:14, again, like, more than pedestrian, but keep my heart rate at 141. And then this morning I went out, same, very, very similar conditions, same day of the week as well. I think it's a Thursday. And it was, I did a 40-minute run. Average heart rate was 140, pace was 950. But again, I'm not going to go out the next day. So it's like almost a 2-minute difference, per mile difference. But I'm not going to go out tomorrow and expect to see that, like, again, that other great result, because I'm just focusing on the one thing that I'm supposed to be doing, which is just getting in my runs, getting them done when it's hot and gross outside, and then letting things happen and just kind of adapt as they come. Because I know, once it's all said and done, I'll be feeling really, really good. And to me, that's like, that heart rate is like very, very low. It's like middle of zone 1. And I'm just like trucking along. I see people, flying by me. I pass some people, but I don't let it, one, get to my head when I pass somebody, but also when I get past, it doesn't hurt my ego. And because sometimes most of the time, honestly, like when you see somebody passing me, they look miserable. Like they're absolutely just like they're trying to fly. They're trying to run so hard. They can't breathe, right? They're sweating profusely. They couldn't even speak if you wanted to speak to them. And I'm over here like breathing in and out of my nose, like total conversation pace. Like, yes, I'm sweating, but like my face isn't like beet red. And I'm like, and the question could be, who's getting the better workout? Or maybe the question should be, who's going to be able to have the better workout tomorrow? Right. So again, like the more you force things, you always have to remember, like if we're forcing it, it's not supposed to be. Right. So when you're doing that, something else has to move out of the way. It's like trying to force a puzzle piece that doesn't fit into a spot that it doesn't go. It's not, you could make it fit, but what's going to happen? All the pieces around it are going to start to fray and bend and kind of get creases in them. And it's going to affect the whole rest of the puzzle because you wanted to force that one to get it because you didn't want to be patient enough to set it aside and figure out where you were missing the big picture. And that's just like, if you could take any analogy, take that one and like, hey, listen, how does this puzzle piece fit today with my training into the big picture? And if it doesn't, am I trying to force it? How is it going to affect? Because that, the wrinkling and the bending and the, and the tearing of these other pieces around it, that's your, that's your Friday, Saturday, Sunday, right? Of this week, that you're forcing something that it's going to impact negatively the next 3 days. Right? Or the weeks leading up to your race where you might not feel it one day, but you force it. It's arguably, you could say this is also a mental thing. When you force yourself to go swim or bike or run again, part of it's just, what you signed up for, but there also has to be a point where you're thinking, all right, well, if I keep forcing myself, I'm going to just hate it and never want to pick it up again. And so relieving some of that, again, will probably keep you in the game longer again, because I think it goes across the board, mentally, emotionally, and physically. When we start to force things, at some point, things are going to start to revolt, right? And your body or your mind or your emotions are going to start to rebel. And when that happens, a lot of times you just can't combat it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. You mentioned that about the heat and how we should embrace that, and how it's like, like you said, that fall EPO, and you're just getting good training, but you have to be under control with it. It's like you're saying, it's like we always want to force that pace that, that's hot day. We want to make sure we can hold like a good day. And then it ends up being this, like, God, it's just beating you down slowly. It's maybe not totally burning matches, but it's lighting them. And it's just like every day, it's just sort of like your fuel's just depleting slowly, and you can kind of feel it. I talk to athletes all the time about this, and lately I've been embracing it more and more because I fall apart in training too, in this sense of, and it's kind of that Strava mentality where you're like, okay, you got a, hour run, you want to go out and show everybody what you got or whatever. And then, so I talk to them a lot about the warm up, like how underrated this is. All right. How the biggest, most overlooked part of everything is the warm up. Cause it's like, oh, it's a warm up, but I still have to keep my watts up, or I still have to do this. So the overall piece of things looks right, but we're not giving our body a chance. You go out and you're trying to hold X pace from the get-go, and the next thing you can do it, but it just like slowly chips away at you. But I'm just a huge proponent of letting your systems warm up and your cooling mechanisms and all your body getting ready to handle that kind of stuff. And then, so I go out now, and I've kind of been really working on this and trying to trick myself into going into every workout with zero expectations and not even paying attention to the warm-up time. Like sometimes that might mean I just do a lot more breaststroking when I'm starting my swim, like, because I always talk about warming up before the swim, and most people don't do the arm stuff and the bands and, really kind of get ready to swim. So if you're going to actually warm up, and I talk about this in a race too, if you're not going to warm up before a race, you got to use that first couple 100 to 300 yards for a warm-up, or else you're going to be like pushing your envelope a little bit too much, and then it just slowly creeps up throughout the day. So it's all about, for me, is just like getting on a bike and just kind of riding for a while, just kind of like riding around, no watts, no worried about anything. Just let my body tell me what's going on. And then as I get going, and it always comes back to that. I mean, to me, it's that simple, negative split mentality that really should be ground in your brain for every day. It's like every race, you can burn matches in a race. Like last year when I did Wisconsin, I did all my, I had my run idea in my head. I'm like, shit, I can do this run walk and I can hold X pace. And I come out of the gate and I'm trying to hold what I wanted to hold for a marathon. And I couldn't even come close to it. And I'm like, shit, I am in big trouble, because it was a run walk. It wasn't even like a run. So I can't hold it. So then I start making unforced errors like we talked about earlier. I start, maybe I'll shift it up. I'll change it all up. And then everything started going to hell. And then I look back and I was like, if I'd have stuck with that, I probably would have done a hell of a lot better. But I panicked and I started overcompensating and trying different things, went way off my game plan and just fell apart. And I just think about that stuff a lot. It's like that first, how those first 15, 20 minutes can really get in your head if you're like eager or too anxious to do something great. It's like we don't let things come to us. And so I've been really just kind of trying to put that warm up on the pedestal. And I'm thinking about that as far as racing goes too, because it's that, first few miles of that marathon, man, you just got to really get your systems in check. Because if it's not and you're out of whack by the time you get to mile 4, you're probably in for a really long day.
And I mean, we see it all the time, like visibly, the athletes that are carrying like the most tension and expectation when they're in the corral getting ready to go in the water.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that are free and laughing and like, because honestly, like if some people, you might look at like two different people. One's like, just in the zone, like not looking at anybody, head down. You might argue, they're just getting zoned in for the day, and the other person's like laughing and chatting and having a good time, dancing to music. Like, if you had to ask me if I had to put money on one of the two to like, not their time, but to guarantee a finish, I'd put it on the one that was having a good time. That was laughing and cheering. Like, yes, you need to be dialed in, but like, you also need to be able to go with the flow. And because again, like if you take things too seriously and you want things too bad, then you just are too tense. Because there is stress and tension, right? And so you're adding stress by not even doing anything to yourself, your expectations, even to your mindset, setting yourself up for failure by wanting something so bad. Yes, you can. There's nothing wrong, and I encourage you to be determined and to be dedicated, to be motivated and to really want to succeed at something. But that doesn't mean every session, every day, every minute that you're trying to force something to be what it isn't going to be, right? Because if you really want to do the things that you say you want to do, then you have to listen to your body because it's going to tell you what it can do. And I think that's the biggest disconnect that we see, regardless of the time of year, but especially right now as training volume is increasing and outside environmental stress may be increasing with it, right? It's like a double whammy, is that we go into our workouts with a chin up mentality instead of a chin down mentality, right? Chin up. Mm-hmm. This is what I want. This is what I expect. This is what has to be done today, versus, well, that your brain isn't really, it's in charge to a degree, but like ultimately, like your body is the one that like tells you, hey, like this is what I'm doing today. And if you just like let me kind of like do my thing and warm up slow and kind of get my feet underneath me or get my legs underneath me or, warm up slow with the swim, I can kind of figure out who I am and then we can kind of go with it, or you can like force out of the gate to try and meet these requirements out of the first minute. And then if you don't, because here's the thing is you don't succeed in the first 5 minutes, you're already carrying negative energy and negative tension.
Mm-hmm.
God, I gotta last an hour and a half and like the first 5 minutes were brutal. Then that's on you, because you should be taking it super easy. You should be gradually, slowly. I mean, and I have to do that to myself even. Like, I'm like, man, like coming out of the house, if I go left, it's down. If I go right, it's like a slight uphill. Like a lot of times I just choose to go right no matter what, because I know I've got to like keep my cadence quick, keep my feet short, keep my heart rate under control. And like, I just slowly start, okay, I don't want to be over here by here. I don't want it to be over here. Like, it's all about control. Right? Because then you want to feel good when you're done, so you can then go in with that same fresh, excited, healthy mentality the next one. but you aren't going to have that will, that motivation, that determination, right, to get it done, to hit this goal you want to hit, if you're absolutely smoked. Right. Just like, it's to me, it's like, it's so psychological, right? Because you diet and you restrict and you force yourself to not have these things, and you go way to the other end of the spectrum. When you do go, you're going hard. You're going like quadruple size Andes to whole sleeve of Oreos. And right before that, I had a cheese dip Slurpee. Like, you're going all in. You're not having like a half cookie and that's it. Like, you are going all in because you abstained too much. You force yourself to be, go way in the other direction, be way too polarizing, and then you just fail. Same thing with working out. You go all in, and then you're smoked, because guess what? You have to have energy, and you have to be rested, and you have to feel good to have that high level of motivation to want to do the next workout. And so, but if you don't, and you keep burning your biscuits and creating all these unforced errors, and guess what? You're gonna wake up and you'll be like, God, I feel terrible. Do I really want to feel that way again? And you're gonna say, no, I don't. So I'm gonna skip today, which also for most people increases the likelihood of not doing it tomorrow. So now we got one day to give away too, and it's all about stringing them together and adding those links in the chain.
Yeah, and I mean, you hit on it, man. It's like that stress and the tension. A lot of people talk about it. We talk about it, and everybody's, it's like, hey, race day should be a fun day, man. And a lot of people say, I'm going to go out and have fun, and they say it, but they actually don't do it. And I'm the same way. It's like it sort of turns a screw, and there's time for it. And I just think that, like with me, it's I try not to make that turn the screws on the race too early, but I've done it, but if you like jump in that water and you're blasting full blast right away, we always say it's like, I always tell everybody to swim as slow as they possibly can for the first 200 or 300 yards, because they're going faster than they think, because it's a race and you're amped up, and then you have, your chest, your heart rate's out of control and all that shit. So I'm just like, go kind of look around and just soak it in for the first 300 yards. I mean, you got 4,000 yards. It ain't like, it's like the first 200 is going to matter a ton. It can matter if you don't set it up the right way. So, stuff like that, or on the bike, it's like, it's so tempting just to get on that thing and just start hammering, because you're going to feel good. Your legs are going to feel good. You haven't done a lot that week or whatever. And the next thing you know, you're flying along, and 20 miles in, you're feeling great. And the next thing you know, it's like mile 80 and you're just in a hurt locker, because you pushed it too hard. And I think there's so much power in just kind of soaking in the atmosphere in that first, 15 to 30 minutes of each phase of the event, because if you're putting your head down the whole time, it's just going to be a long day.
Mm-hmm. I mean, let it come to me. And seriously, like, if it's all, we hear it all the time, it's all about the run. The run is last. But if you burn your biscuits in the swim and the bike and you're not prepared, it doesn't matter, right? Same thing with every workout. It's how you end it. It's not how you start it. But again, we go, like you never know who you're going to be until 20 to 30 minutes get in the workout. I mean, you've seen it. I've seen it with you. You've seen it with me. Like, it's almost just like throw it away. Like, don't even listen to it, your body. But same thing goes like how we approach every single workout with, like, these I'm telling you, like, again, as we kind of close it out here today, it's a Thursday. We'll post this podcast today. You may listen to it tomorrow. Who knows? Maybe in like a month, maybe never. But like, as you go into these weekend workouts, like, read it, look at the intent, look at the description, put it away, and then listen to your body. What are the signals my body's telling me, right? What is, how do I feel? Because it's very similar. Like, if I look at if I looked at the heat and the humidity and the dew point this morning before I went out for a run, and already assumed that I was going to have a terrible run or a great run, depending on what it is, then I'm already, before I even got my GPS locked in, I'm already either I'm either going to fail that run, or I'm going to work really, really hard to make sure it's success. And both are probably wrong. Same thing with every workout, right? The intent, the spirit, needs to be there, but not to the detriment of how you feel. Because you alone on the bike out there on race day, no headset, you can't pull over and text your coach, hey coach, like I'm just not feeling good these first 2 hours. Like, what should I do for the rest of the race? You can't do it. So figure it out on your own, right? And you can't do that if you don't have those kind of days out there with long swims on Friday, maybe a long bike run on the weekends. Like, listen to your body, because I'm telling you, you cannot go wrong, because your body sends you signals. Now, whether you listen to them is a whole different thing, right? It's like, it's like the check engine light comes on and your car is telling you, hey, dude, I need some love. Take care of me. You can be like, I ain't got time for that. I'm too busy. And the next thing you know, the check engine light doesn't come on. The car just stops in the middle of the interstate, and now you're fucked. Like, you got to listen to your body's like check engine and warning signs. If you listen to that and you help mitigate those things, like I'm telling you, you will continue to be successful. You continue to progress, and you'll continue to be able to stack days on days on days on days on days and feel good while you're doing it, because how you feel and how your body is responding and the signals that it's sending you should take precedence over everything else, whether it's green light, yellow light, or a red light.
Couldn't agree more.
Couldn't agree more. That's all we got. We're listening to ourselves right now. We hope you listen to yourselves on your weekend's training. Get out there, enjoy yourself this weekend. Best of luck to everyone racing, Muscle Man, Muncie, and any other races going around the country. It's a busy time of year, and we love it. As always, we appreciate you guys. We love you. Go to our website, c26triathlon.com, and it's our one-stop shop for all things coaching, camps, and community. If you need anything from Mike, he's available. Mike at c26triathlon.com. If you need anything from me, Robbie at c26triathlon.com.
All right, man. We'll have a great week.
Check you later.
Yep.
See you. You too, buddy.